Okay then, let's try another controller. This is the Power A wireless switch controller. It's got pretty good reviews online. It's also pretty affordable. I think it's $38. Pro Style Wireless Freedom. We will give you a wireless controller without the Nintendo tax. Man, I miss the good old days when we only had the Nike tax, the Sony tax, the Kenwood tax, the Blaupunk tax. That reminds me of that Futurama episode. I can't believe they put advertisements into our dreams. Didn't you have advertisements back in your time, Fry? Well, sure. We had them at ball games, on television, in magazines, and he lists off like 20 things, but never in our dreams. That's where we draw the line. Oh, there's like there's 3 rear buttons. This thing's trying to find a switch. I suppose it's trying to find a switch, huh? Let's give it one. I must be a robot. Why else would human women not want me? Oh, Fry, lots of reasons. I don't like having discs crammed into me, unless they're Oreos, and then only in my mouth. Got this controller connected. Yeah, I need a new game for this thing. But they still charge $60 for new games. This controller seems like it's thick. What would THICC? Thick? Oh, seriously? Another black circuit board? Look, you know what that is? Artificial weight. I like the size of this LiPo. Oh, there's your 3 rear buttons. Glop top. Oh, like fun? Does that mean function button? Oh, there's test pads. That's a good sign. They've got a proper disconnect on the battery end. Looks like they have a thermal sensor on the battery. See how there's 3 wires going to it? HD rumble. Oh, that's pretty easy. Oh no, it's another castellated board. Ah, come on. Oh, and they have the D-pad raised up. That's kind of neat how like all companies have a... So here's the thing. Microsoft, the Xbox One controller, they actually made sure the D-pad circuitry was at a higher level so it wasn't mushy. Something else, I don't know if you noticed, but like that whole like modern, or what they used to call the Metro look, like for the Zune and Windows 8. That user interface has been adopted by pretty much everyone. Oh, I see, there's 2 more screws. Oh, there's just barely enough room to get at it. That's certainly a lot more mechanical than the last one. Is this gonna fall to pieces? No, it's not. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so, I mean, I had to search around for the screws a bit more, but this one's a little simpler to take apart. So this, okay, that comes apart. It is 900 milliamp hours, so that's a much bigger battery. Oh, look what I found. Test points. Yay, that's what we want to see. Thank you, Power A controllers. Test points, right, down, left, up, home, plus, minus, yada, yada, yada. Well, just the fact that there's a whole bunch of test points, and most of them are labeled, that's good. I guess the thing now is to check and see how they're doing the voltages. Let's see, and these have different brand. Well, those definitely aren't ALP joysticks. They look pretty janky. Is this socketed in place? How is this held in place? Oh, that's interesting. See these surface mount tack switches for the rear buttons? They also have an option for a through-hole tack switch. Right, down, left, up, home, positive, negative, and an LED. So you think that could be cool about this one is either for left or right hand use, because you know I always put the D-pad down here. If you remove this, that would also give you an easy header to reconnect these 4 buttons, or I'm sorry, these 8 buttons somewhere else, or like on either side. Okay, yeah, it's hard soldered. I guess that makes sense, because that would... Connectors are some of the most expensive things in any product. Pretty nice design. It's all self-contained, doesn't fall out. I love you more than I did the week before I discovered alcohol. Found the first Mad Max on Laserdisc the other day. Maybe I'll watch it with my niece. That will be the new tradition. It's like, Uncle Ben, why are we watching these fuzzy old movies? Like, shut up! Still trying to heal up my thumb. Put like this breathable strip on it. I don't want the flap to come loose. Then my thumb will be even uglier than it was before. Let's unplug this controller. I've noticed there is... Seems like it's using 3.3 volts as the common instead of ground. However, it also seems like these controllers are woken up by any button being pushed. So like here I've got 3.3 volt line. I'll touch it to up, and the controller's trying to wake up, and there it's connected. So then I touch it to... But it got me thinking, maybe the reason they use a positive edge for the switch change is so they can... Maybe all the buttons are acting as interrupts. Nintendo presents YouTube? Super Mario Iliad. But yeah, most of the... Well, let's see. A, Y, B. Where's X? Now I can play the Switch with a random person in the airport, because that wouldn't totally be creepy or anything. Okay, I have to admit, Nintendo makes this part pretty easy. It's me, Mario. What do you want me to make? Please make a Switch Pro. Oh, you want me to make a Switch with an OLED screen? Well, yeah, but could you also give it a better processor? What are you talking about? I'm Mario. Oh, X is up there. You take whatever I give you, because I'm Mario. Yes, sir, Mr. Mario. Oh, it looks like all the test points are, let's see, okay, LZ. And then L. What is the voltage level of the sticks? Wow, they're even labeled. Nice. Oh, that's interesting. Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirty and gritty. These analog sticks might look cheaper than the Alps, but the spring is much stronger. This middle shaft is metal. Actually, both of the axes inside of it are metal. Although for my tests, well, yes, analog stick drift is real. Well, actually, here's a question. I mean, we can do it on this one because it's so much easier to see everything. So... I actually was looking into buying one of these Power A controllers a few months ago, but oh, I found the data sheet. It's an HRM 1085 Bluetooth module. Here's the pinout of the castellated edges. Yeah, I mean, looks like you have everything you need. You've got some UARTs, right stick, left stick, X, Y, stick buttons, which is the push in. The KS, I'm assuming that's probably keyboard. So what it might be doing, the ASIC might actually be doing some sort of matrix or decoding or serializing of the data and then sending it to this module, which then sends it to the switch. Let's see, UART, RTS, TX, so it's got, all right, well, I'm sure it doesn't use CTS and RTS. Yeah, we could sniff, I mean, who knows, maybe that module is taking the serial button data, using it for an interrupt wake up and then actually sending it back here. Come on, baby, leave some change behind. Nothing. 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 How is it getting the digital data from the buttons into this module? So I'm probing around trying to find any changes to the stream when I'm pushing these buttons, going from the ASIC into the Bluetooth module. Not seeing anything. Yeah, it's weird, like you don't actually see a signal unless there's a button, so it'll just stay high. Okay, that seems good. All right, let me capture this. There we go. I feel like that was really strenuous. Interesting. Yeah, it appears that the glop top is sending a matrix signal back into the Bluetooth controller. But hey, you know what? All I care about is the test points. Like the test points seem to work digitally. Shut up, phone. The test points seem to work digitally, so that's all I care about. The rest is just gravy. Oh, let's see if we can find the analog stick input to this Bluetooth controller. Castellated point 19, right stick Y. So let me go up. Yep. And down. Yeah, that corresponds with the markings that we saw. On most modern analog sticks, down in the x-axis takes you closer to the high voltage, while up on the x-axis takes you closer to the low voltage. Oh, it's interesting. These macro buttons don't act as a wake-up function. Scope on A and then complete the circuit. Well, aside from the debounce, well, it's not the debounce technically, the edge chatter, it looks like on this side it's just a digital signal. So yes, what I think is happening is these buttons, the buttons are active high, which probably also acts as a rising edge interrupt. So this glop top probably is woken by interrupt. Then it takes the digital buttons on this side, which is good, turns it into some sort of matrix data, and then sends that back to this module. Whereas the first controller we were looking at, did that one have a glop top? I think it did as well. Well, isn't this where this is where I usually put the secondary button. Well, that'll be easier too. Well, actually on this controller, you might be able to use this as the secondary trigger because the secondary triggers are not analog. They're just a button, Z, R, and R. I removed the D-pad assembly, which is on its own little board here. I have an idea for this. Now for the left-handed controller, which I should probably design first because it's more complicated, I put the A, B, X, Y buttons where the left D-pad is, and then I put the D-pad here. That's what I've been doing for quite a long time. Now this already has a separate circuit board for that, and if we look on the back, even though the front of it is the evil black silkscreen, the back of it we can actually see the copper traces. So I was thinking what we could do is we could actually bend the traces for the up, down, left, right, and then rewire them into A, B, X, Y. Oh. See? Yeah, that could work. And then we'll just 3D print custom buttons that interface between this and the player's fingers or thumbs. Oh, I should have actually swapped my thumb wrap. I should have taken a video of it. So again, the common on this isn't ground, it's 3.3 volts, but we can get that from this side. Let's see, now this goes here. Now we need to think about wire management. We've got this big bulky light pipe thing. So you got little LEDs on the circuit board, and then there's, well, they call them light pipes that bend the light and make it go sideways. What's the best way to get out of this? That's a clip. Let's see. That lined up pretty well, see? And then what you would do is, well, I think this portion here, when it goes into the front, it also creates that space, or it backs the space. Oh yeah, plenty of, I don't know if you can see it on camera, there's plenty of clearance for the pins we bent. ABXY test points are over here, so we need to transport that. We need to have a path. I don't think I can go just straight to the left. Well, left as seen in this view. Because, well, I might be able to. Like, I could go here, wrap around here, and then up here. I have to think about how this will be put together, because, you know, if I'm going to do this, I'm probably going to build many of them. So this front button assembly it needs to be attached to, come on, Ben. It needs to be attached to the main PCB. So Let me grab a magnet. Cheater magnet. Dun 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 dun. I was in Wisconsin Dells yesterday. I was hanging out with some friends, and I was discussing cheese curds with one of them. One of my several friends named Mike. And this particular Mike, we actually used to work at the same restaurant when we were in high school. So he's like, yeah, I was trying to make fried cheese curds, but I was having trouble. And then his girlfriend was making fun of him, and so it was weird. He was like, oh, I froze the cheese curds ahead of time, and then I stuck them into then I breaded them, and then his girlfriend laughed, and I'm like, yeah, why did you do that? That's weird. I mean, Mike's a pretty good cook. On the fishing trips, he's always happy to clean the fish, and we're always happy to let him. My family was visiting yesterday. They're still here. They must really sleep in really late. I thought I slept in late on weekends, but it's 11:10, and I don't hear them moving around or harassing my cat, so they must still be sleeping. Which is fine by me. Gonna take my niece to see Black Widow this week. I'm sure it's going to be an incredibly average Marvel movie, which is most Marvel movies. Honestly, for me, Marvel's batting about maybe 500. Thought Infinity War was really good. Black Panther isn't a good movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp wasn't a good movie. I like Captain Marvel. I like that one. I didn't like Endgame. I thought the time travel was really dumb. I mean, I see reviews of like the Tomorrow War, that movie that Amazon bought, Chris Pratt, and it's like, oh, the time travel is dumb. And well, yeah, it's kind of dumb, but it's not as dumb as Endgame's time travel. That's what I hate with a lot of these modern movies. Whenever they do time travel, they just do like the infinite worlds theory. Like, oh, every time you time travel, it makes a new timeline. And they use that to hand wave around all the paradoxes. But if that's true, like in Avengers Endgame, that means there's a timeline where half the population was destroyed and the Avengers go back into time and never return. See, I like time travel where it's like Time's Arrow, that episode of Star Trek Next Gen, where they find Data's head buried under San Francisco. Time travel where it's static, where like no matter what, whatever happened, happened. Those are the best stories. You know, like Back to the Future 2, where if you go back in time and cause your parents to not fall in love, then you start to disappear. You know, there are consequences. But of course, you know, movies now suck. Taking a photo for posterity. Or like Back to the Future 2, we're like, we can't leave Jennifer in the evil 1985. It's like, if we succeed in our mission, Jennifer will wake up in the original timeline on her own porch. But what if we don't succeed? We must succeed. Give me Genesis. I'm just going to put a little hot glue on it. Not that it really needs it, but just kind of to lock in the position of the wire. Don't worry, I licked my thumb first. Or, I'm sorry, my index finger. Whatever finger that was. So what I'll do is I'll measure the size of this cross, then the distance between the front surface and the top of the buttons. Then I can 3D print a piece that goes into it along with individual buttons. Oh, I must have forgot about this piece. This is the spacing interface. You know what? I think this is overkill. You monster! Alright, I used my calipers and I drew the cross into the computer and I 3D printed this piece. I made sure I copied all the curves as well. You know, I've said this so many times, but you know, just print a little test piece before you get too far to make sure that it's correct, because if you just sit there and design the whole thing and then a measurement is off and you'll be like, oh crap, I spent all this time. I mean, you might be able to dial it back parametrically, but you might be like, oh, I spent all this time the base drawing wasn't right, which means everything I based off that drawing isn't right, and then you're going to have a bad time. Yeah, there's a little bit of compression. See how it's kind of reddish at the bottom? I don't know if that comes up on camera. That's because I had red filament in there and I didn't really purge it. So I'll probably do it the same way as I do with the Xbox, or at least the Xbox One S controller, not the core controller, which has a big circle opening here. I'll put little tabs here that match this fillet. So when this goes into place, it will lock it in place in 4 corners, so it'll be in the correct XY orientation. The surface is, it's got a little bit of a curve. See that? Probably should take that into account too. See that little curve there? Basically just by having some filled plastic. So I'll take this general angle. It's not a straight angle like it is on the Xbox. It's a curve, but whatever, I can figure it out. And the D-pad is, when it moves, it's pushing the thing on the edge, not necessarily inside the cross itself, which is good because then you get more lever action. So what I will do is I'll fashion the buttons here, but they'll have a little bit of offset so they move up a bit. And I'll just take the measurements. Well, it's quite simple. I have the center point of the cross on my computer. All I need to do is grab the distance between centers of these tactile domes, and then I'll draw circles the size of the tactile dome, and then I will put that to the same center point as this, and that will line it up. Let's see, this goes in here. We've got the curve. Pretty good match. See how it's not straight? All right. Before I glue it, I'm just gonna wait for the new buttons to print to make sure that they fit, and then we should be good. But the idea is, well, here's one button. It's not quite right, but buttons go in there like that. They stick out the front for the player to use, and then the buttons will just depress these domes. I think I probably have the confidence to actually glue that in place now. So I guess I will. I'm still going to use this Tester's model glue. One of the reasons I use this is unlike super glue, it won't like seep into certain things and cause damage. Also, super glue tends to outgas and leave like a white residue on things. So I've got some testers on the outside, and I'll just do real tiny, just a drop on each corner. There we go. That should move freely. And what's this? Okay, this one's got a slight concavity on it, so that one goes towards the player. So the idea here is the ones closer to your thumb are lower and the ones further are higher, so you can kind of feel the difference without having to look at it. Granted, I should wait for the glue to set, but just to test, I'm going to put the PCB in place, and then we should have, yep, we've got good dome press. It's time for Upside Down Vomit Cam on Ben Heck Hacks. Yes, I still have a wrap on my thumb. I don't want the flap of skin to come off, because then you'll complain even more about my thumbs, because there'll be a big chunk missing, like right there on the other thumb. Okay, I think this is decent. I wouldn't normally do this part. I'm just going to kind of lightly hot glue it in place just so I don't have to worry about it falling out. Because there's probably some other steps I need to do, including the D-pad. But what I'd probably do for, a normal build, if I was just doing this for a customer, which I guess I would do in the future, is I would put this piece in place, then solder this header back together, and then, as we saw, there's a spacer which goes behind where the D-pad was. But I'm not going to do that yet because I need to attach the D-pad, which is this one right here. I guess we could take a look at that. Carve out a little bit more there. I guess I could just alter the file, but for now, I'll just do it manually. Okay, so we're going to drill two 2mm holes, like such. Jump to a 5mm. What's that sixth sense? You know, humans actually have a sixth sense. It's called like presophilioma or presidis. It's something with a P. You know, like that thing where if you're drunk, the cops make you do this. It's kind of hard to do in the camera, right? Yeah, your sixth senses. Oh, I ground the groove in the piece that didn't have the PCB pre-installed. So I guess I've got to grind it again, which is okay because I think I could grind it a little bit better. So the wire goes through there. Now the Xbox, that was you know, it was the signals and then ground. This one will be the same except for the common signal will be 5 volts or, well, 3.3 volts. Yeah, anyway, so it's what? 9:15. That theater has a stupid amount of ads, which that was what I really liked about the Flicks Brew House in Easttown. It's one of the best Alamo Draft House clones I've been to. Like before the movie, like the pre-screen show, hardly any ads. Pretty much everything was there would be like custom videos that actually had something to do with the movie you're about to watch, which is the same thing that Alamo Draft House does. So a fun experience. But, and then my favorite part, when the movie actually starts, only 3 trailers. Marcus averages, drumroll, 7. So they had that thing, I think it was Forrest Gump. Yes. This actually was a thing, like in, well, what was that, 1994? The trailer for that movie was really long. And so they created this new rule, or the MPAA, which is now the MPA because China. They created a new rule that a movie trailer could only be, and yes, that's why they changed their name. The movie trailer could only be 2.5 minutes long. So what did they do? What did the theaters do? They just run more trailers, so you don't win. So if it's 9:15, that's when the trailers start, right? So the movie itself probably won't start until almost 9:40. That is one of my least favorite things about going to theaters. It's like movie trailers are pointless. I mean, unless there's like Amish people in the theater, everybody knows about these movies. Well, okay, not everyone knows. Like, I'm sure I'll have friends who will text me a year from now or next spring. They'll be like, "Oh, there's a new Indiana Jones movie coming out." I wonder if there will be, you know, maybe theater patrons will be like, enough. It's like, you know, after you get used to a year of clicking a button and a movie starts, you know, sometimes HBO will try to like show you like a short ad, but it's usually not too long. Or or on Amazon does that too. It's like, no, I don't care about In the Heights. Nobody does. Well, I guess Hamilton hipsters do. Hamilton hipsters. But no, I mean, think about it. Streaming gives you a superior experience. You sit down, you push the button, the movie starts. Movies are all way too long nowadays. So if you gotta take a leak, you push the button, the movie pauses, you go take a leak. I think you have like these film purists, it's like, oh, the sanctity of the Church of Cinema. This is gonna be a really long video. And like, is this my second or third rant about movies? Because, oh man, I'm losing track of time. Well, if you think about a theater, everything about a movie theater, everything revolves around the limitations of the format, or, well, the technology. You go back 100 years, right? Like the Lumiere brothers and the dawn of the Nickelodeons. It was like, ooh, a theater. For one thing, they had air conditioning, or a primitive form of air conditioning. Like sometimes they would accomplish air conditioning by Well, kind of like an evaporative cooler, by, like using the evaporation of water to remove heat from the air. But whatever. Air conditioning. I remember there's an Onion article back in the day about Battlefield Earth, and it's like, Battlefield Earth made some money this weekend. Why do you think that is? And they had one of their usual fake polls, and one of the answers was air conditioning. But no, that would have been... I mean, think about it. Like, you're living in like a hot city. Imagine what New York City must have been like before buildings had air conditioning. It must have been terrible. So if you're rich, like a madman, you go summer in the Hamptons. Everyone else, well, you're out of luck. You better hope they open up a fire extinguisher, or you go to the movie theater. But, it just goes beyond that. So the technology. So, oh, look, this guy bought a projector. So he's got this thing nobody else does. He's got this expensive movie projector. And then he has a connection. Like, he knows the distributor, so he can get the movies and get them on the, get the prints. And then he hires a special person to change the reels, because that's before they had platters. So projectionists actually used to be a really well-paid job back in the day. A lot of them are unionized. Because what they would do, on film, movies were distributed in reels. So each reel is 20 minutes. And then there'd be 2 projectors. And one projector had the first 20 minutes, the next projector had the second 20 minutes. And then when you saw the cigarette burn up in the corner, there was 2 of them. One of them was the signal to start the other projector. And the second cigarette burn is when the reels switch. So the projectionist he or she would be required to do that. And then he'd have to unwind the other film. He'd have to reverse it, or he'd have to wind it back, because, it'd be backwards. Then he'd also have to put the next reel on. He had to do that, 6 times a movie? But then they switched to a platter system, where they built the film onto a platter, and then they'd run it all in one shot. Well, I'm kind of getting beyond myself. I'm just saying, a projector was a specialized piece of equipment that not many people could afford to own. So it's like, okay, how do I get back my investment with this projector? Okay, well, I can show people the movies. All right, well, the movie's 2 hours long, so I can show it 5 times a day. Well, I want to show it to as many people as possible each one of those times. So I know, let's have a big room, so we can put a lot of people in it. Great. Well, big room. How are they going to see it all? I know, a big screen. That's why theaters are the way they are. There's nothing romantic about it. There's nothing magical or sacred. It's just a byproduct of technological limitations. Even the popcorn. Popcorn is it's just so cheap. Like, all you really do is you pay to ship it. It's so cheap. You have like this, you could have, the popcorn kernels that fit inside of this, that many, what would that be? Like a third of a cup? Not even that, probably like a quarter cup. Quarter cup of popcorn kernels, you get this big, huge thing. So it's like compression. The kernels decompress into a large snack that's super cheap for the operator. And another good thing about popcorn is it's somewhat fractal. So even as it gets broken up, or if you drop it on the ground, it's roundish, which makes it easy to sweep up. Oh, theater woke. There's nothing special about it. Now everyone has a screen in their pocket. Everyone has, everyone has a distributor, which would be like, they've got HBO, Amazon, Disney Plus in their pocket. There's nothing special about it anymore. Even like if you're taking the resolution of it, like there's 2 resolutions for a digital cinema package. There's 2K and 4K. And the 2K one, I want to say it's like 2,000 something pixels across, hence 2K. But the vertical resolution is like sub 1,000. So it's almost slightly less than even a standard HD TV. I know it's pretty crazy to think about it, but it's true. And then on top, the cherry on top of that is a lot of movies, like you might see like a 4K Blu-ray. A lot of movies, they might be shot in 4K, but the post-production is done in 2K. To save money because you have less pixels to render, to save space. Also, if you have a 4K frame and a 2K output, just like I do with actually this channel, you get a free punch in like that. I mean, there's definitely been, theater experiences that were amazing. Like, what was it? Oh, like Lord of the Rings opening night with the Spider-Man trailer. That was like amazing. Like, Kristen Dunst is all wet and the crowd's like, yeah! It was awesome. People get really addicted to convenience. Like, oh, these MP3s don't sound as good as my CDs, but I can't really tell the difference. And oh man, it's so convenient. Streaming is worse quality than Blu-ray, but it's so convenient. You kind of can't put that toothpaste back in the bottle. Notwithstanding the fact that theaters, they'll probably become like a niche date night thing. I'm sure Amazon will buy the rest of the theaters and turn them into warehouses. In the olden days, they'd close a theater and turn it into a church. Now they turn it into Amazon. Okay, but how to make the experience better? Well, first of all, get rid of the trailers. And instead of having the trailers and the pre-ads, blah, blah, blah. Think about it. A theater is supposed to be a premium experience, and yet it has ads on it. It's like paying for HBO Max, but you get Hulu, the $7 version. So get rid of all that and make it like an experience, like it's an event. Well, for one thing, since movies are so stupidly long, bring back intermissions. Most theaters have also adopted the Alamo Drafthouse model of having food and booze. So I would say bring back the intermission. Well, before you get to the intermission, have an overture. What was the last Hollywood movie to have an overture? Was it The Black Hole? Like this music as everyone's going into the theater. Oh, it was either Black Hole or Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Star Trek, that movie had a fantastic soundtrack. Yeah, all right, so you have that, and everyone's going in, and then the movie just starts on time. Another thing, now the intermission. So you have the intermission. It's like, let's say if a movie's over 2.5 hours, you have an intermission before the end of Act 3 or something, right? Now I was watching Avengers: Age of Ultron, and since I understand how story works, I knew as soon as they went to that stupid farmhouse, the movie would just basically come to a stop for 15 minutes, because that is Magic Flight. See also the part in Ninja Turtles where they go to a farmhouse after a defeat. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to the bathroom right now because I know I'm not gonna miss anything. But anyway, have a intermission there. Bunch of advantages to an intermission. Okay, one, people who smoke will be more likely to go to movies. Percentage of people who smoke in America is, I think it's one of the lowest in the world. It's like 19%, but almost every other country is higher, especially China. So yeah, let them go smoke. Their money's as green as anyone else's. Also, that would give you a chance to go and have some concessions, spend some more money, go out in the hallway and socialize and say, "Ooh, man, I didn't expect that Black Widow would punch Scarlet Witch," or something, right? That would be cool. If the movies are so, that's one thing I don't like, is the movies are so effing long. It feels like it's taking up my whole day. First world problems, right? But just make it more of an event. If you're going to take up that much time, just make it more of a meal and not a snack. See the concavity on the left? That's where it happened. So they sewed the flap back down. The knife did that. It went in about that far. They sewed the flap back down, but I'm guessing that this connecting scar tissue probably stretched and caused a contraction, which is why there's an indentation. But it could have been worse. There could have been a much deeper concavity had they not been able to sew it flat. So I'm still kind of keeping it ginger. It does still feel a little weird. I'm sure the nerves are probably permanently messed up, but whatever. At least there's not a big gap in my thumb. And the custom button was stored even after the battery disconnected. That's good. Yeah, so I can just, well, I don't even have to remove this tack switch. It looks like there's a test point right next to it. And I think these actually use ground as the common. Well, whatever it is. Okay, so playing like this. Pew pew, Mario, I'm Mario, right? So we've moved these buttons over here. So I'm gonna put two buttons right here. It's gonna be the R1 button, and the other one will be the right click-in button, which is usually called R3. Yeah, and then combined with this button, plus the bonus button that you can change, should be pretty good. So perhaps maybe there's something that they want to do. They want to be moving this stick and press this button at the same time, which might be a little difficult with this setup. They could assign X to the secondary button back there. I just drew this up quick and cut it on my laser. So it's got R3, R1, and kind of like this generic crescent cutout. So you could use the same thing over here pretty much. You would just obviously change it to say left. So let's take it. Well, first of all, let's make sure it's going to be... Okay, so I got my thumb. So you'll be doing this, and then you go down to that. Yeah, that should work. I mean, this is just the prototype unit, so maybe I'll sell it to someone for a great price. Although, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, so a lot of these concepts are pretty solid. Oh no, I'm having flashbacks. Yeah, so when I cut my thumb open, I was actually fixing an old Xbox One single-headed controller that Felix had assembled. And the reason I know Felix assembled it was because this step right here, putting these face buttons on, I always use Tester's model glue for that. Felix used super glue, which I don't really agree with because these switches are kind of small, and as I was talking about earlier, the super glue can kind of infect things around it and cause small buttons and other things to seize up. That's why I use the Tester's glue. Because, you know, you have the plastic on the back of the tack switch going to the plastic on the controller, so it's a plastic to plastic connection. So it should be fine for that. But yeah, so I was... These face buttons, they actually don't fail as much as I thought they would when I first started using them. But anyway, I was trying to scrape it off, like, scrape the old one off. And when it finally came, the knife kept going into my thumb. So actually, I think it was... Yeah, it was this knife. Actually, I think it was that same blade. So I went about that far in. It was a pretty good gusher. But I guess it's better now. All right, so once the glue dries, I'll run 3 wires. So, well, I assume it's 3 wires, like 1 common and 2 signals through here, and then we'll just glue that over the top. And the reason I did that now is that way we can basically just finish up this part of the controller and then just pretty much work on the buttons and then the lower analog. So we can, you know, finish one part of it. Because I still have to make the right-handed controller yet for this video. This video is probably going to be like 2 hours long. I attached these thin wires to the surface mount connections. Oh, you know what? That was going to happen anyway. You know, it's like when you're going bald and you just refuse to shave off all your hair. Yes, I was trying to act like I'm not self-aware there. Just let the buttons fall. Let the chips fall where they may. You ever have that where you're driving around and maybe you got something on the floorboards like, oh, I don't know, like a bottle of wine or a plant or something, and you're driving around the corners really gingerly, and because you don't want it to fall over, but it keeps acting like it's gonna fall over, and then sometimes you're just like, oh, screw it, and then you just lean down and knock it over yourself, so you know, you can stop thinking about it. Now there's a scientific term for that too. It's the same thing where if you're sitting on the edge of a cliff with a friend and you have like this sudden desire to push them off the cliff, don't feel guilty. That's part of psychology. I don't know what it's called, but it's totally a thing. And I can't remember half the things I discussed in this video now. It's kind of like when you go on a long trip and you're at the airport or you're in the Uber on the way back to your house and you're thinking, oh man, I'm technically still on this trip? When will this be over? Black Widow was a movie. It was fine. It's not even really about Black Widow. She doesn't really do anything in it. What's her face? Blonde woman. Midsummer woman. She's a lot more interesting. It's like, well, Black Widow is dead. Spoiler warning! So, I mean, we don't really need to set up too much stuff with her. Also, no one in that movie appears to be able to sustain injuries. There's another really good YouTube series. I don't know why they stopped doing it. I think it was on CinemaSins. Well, they had a couple of them. They had like What's the Damage? And then they also had like a doctor would watch a movie and tell you every time a character would have been dead. So it'd be like, John McClane just died from Die Hard, or Joe Pesci in Home Alone just died. And I was thinking about that when I was watching Black Widow. I'm like, okay, that would have killed her. Okay, that would have killed her. Okay, that would have killed her. That would have killed them both. And I don't know. See, well, I know they're just comic book movies, but it just kind of gets old. Like, you know, they have that. Well, Ralph the movie maker. Wow, I'm really going heavy into the the YouTube multiverse. But Ralph the movie maker had this, which is a YouTube channel. He had this video, and he talked about the protagonist throw, and what that is. It's in this trend in movies where the bad guy will, you know, they'll grab the hero, and instead of just, you know, killing them, they throw them for some reason. And then the hero goes flying. So it's kind of like a way to have violence without really having violence. I mean, a really good example. Although, if you rewatch the movie, it actually holds up pretty well. But Terminator Salvation, there's a lot of protagonist throws where it's like, oh no, it's a T-800. It's the new model. It picks up John Connor and it throws him across the room. And, well, first of all, if the Terminator can pick up John Connor is dead. You know, that's how it should be. That's how it was in the first movie. Like, if the Terminator touched you, you're dead. But Marvel's especially guilty of this. And it's okay if you're like Thor or Iron Man or Captain America, but like Hawkeye and Black Widow are just humans with gadgets. It's like the force it would take to make you fly, you know, 30 feet across the room, the amount of force that would require just to make your body move would kill you. And then hitting whatever it is across the room would kill you. So you'd be dead like twice over. But they just, you know, Thanos, oh, let's see. Well, Thanos could crush Black Widow with his glove. So instead, he'll like swat her away like a fly, even though that would kill somebody. I mean, think about if someone gets hit by a car, do they go flying 30 feet? No, but they still die. So yes, it would take a tremendous amount of force to make, like a 200-pound adult male fly that far. And it would definitely be enough force to cause them to die. But not in Marvel movies. I don't know if it was... I saw a review of Wonder Woman 84 that brought that up. That part where... Oh, I forgot these buttons. That part where the Cheetah Woman, there's that guy who's like perving on her. And so later on in the movie, he's perving on her, but now she's like powerful. And so she like picks him up, throws him against a truck, a panel truck. He dents the side of the truck, falls on the ground, and is still alive. And whoever was doing the movie review was like, well, did the filmmakers forget that not everyone in the movie is a superhero? Like, if you did that to a normal person, they would be dead. But, the guy isn't dead. He runs off somehow. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is like this, what's the best way to put it? It just, envelops everything. Eventually, every actor that ever existed will be in it. Like Black Widow, Rachel Weisz is in it. Rachel Weisz is always great. And then, what's his face? The sheriff from Stranger Things. What's that guy's name? Jeffrey something? David Harbour, who was also in the terrible Hellboy remake. Oh, terrible. You know, I'm kind of torn. Like, I don't really want to bother watching Marvel movies anymore. I only went because my niece wanted to see it. I mean, I just don't care. But Sam Raimi, apparently has already been shot, is making Doctor Strange 2, which is funny because in Spider-Man 2 they have a joke about Doc Ock. It's like, what are we gonna call this guy? It's like, Science Squid. It's crap. Crap. I know, Doctor Strange. That's pretty good, but it's taken. So that's some nice foreshadowing. Obviously, it's just accidental foreshadowing, but sometimes the planets align. But you know what? I'm not going to watch 10 episodes of Loki or whatever other stupid show. I mean, I watched, we'll call it, WandaVision. And, whatever. It's all right, I guess. At a certain point, Marvel movies feel more like homework than movies. So it's like, oh, do I have to watch Loki to understand the beginning? Because obviously I'm going to go to Doctor Strange 2 because it's a Sam Raimi movie. But I don't want to watch a bunch of Marvel homework before I go, yeah. Has anyone even said that before? Marvel movies are like homework. Yeah. All right, class, we're going to have a test on I don't know, Scarlet Witch's origin, which is completely different from Black Widow's origin. Okay, I have the R1 and R2 buttons attached. I actually had to run two separate common wires because one of them is common ground, one of them is common 3.3 volts. Let's make sure they work. Yep, and R1. Cool, it works. All right, so I guess next I should hook up these face buttons, the D-pad, and then pretty much all that'll be left at that point. Well, wait, no, we're gonna add another button here, and then we need to do the lower analog stick. Directional pad here, going up and over to the pins we disconnected earlier. Again, there's nice, well-labeled test pads. Same thing with the face buttons. So I've got the wires coming from this circuit board going to the test points back here. Now, they don't have a common hooked up because that will be sunk through the, sourced by the 3.3 volts here. That's already going to that circuit board. Yeah, so that should work. Where's the battery? Let's see, A, B, Y, X, X. Cool. And then, of course, the D-pad. We've got it all. So I'm trying this. I've got my Sense 3D scanner. They sent this to us years ago for the show. And I hung the controller by its own cable from the ceiling and got a decent scan out of it. The idea is we mostly need, obviously this is another controller that I bought, we mostly need this shape. So we can make a secondary analog, and then what we need the controller volume for is so we can subtract this volume from the shape so the thing that we print will fit nicely up against it. Yeah, so I'll take a look at the file, print like a test cylinder, and we'll see if it's close. After much mesh mixing, I got this, which is supposed to fit here, but it doesn't, so darn it. The Sense scanner did not get me. I mean, it's close, but it's not good enough, so. I mean, this is the last piece of the puzzle. Well, and putting a switch there, which I also, would like some topography for. I'm facing major time dilation. I guess it's part of getting old. The time just slips by really quickly. So much so it makes me want to yell, Murph! The Switch Project. This thing was on hold for so long because the problem back in 2021 was I didn't have a good scanner. I had a Sense scanner, but not a high quality scanner. But then 2023, I did a review of the Creality Ferret scanner, and one of the things I scanned was the extra Power A controller that I had. And then I created this using the subtraction. So this fits perfectly because I got a nice high quality scan of this. So this should use the same circuit boards as my Xbox One controllers. And the profile of this should fit, except for, I think we're gonna have to remove the tack switch. And I'm trying to remember, does this have the same, I mean, these analog sticks are all the same. See, for you, no time has passed at all, but back on Earth, that redheaded chick is like 20 years older. Finishing this project. It's not possible. No, it's necessary. That was the first movie I saw at the Fitchburg IMAX after they turned it into a Limax, aka digital. What was that, 2013 or 14? Yeah, it looks like the vertical is flipped versus the Xbox. Well, actually, I think that just flips. See how there's two sets of these? There's one on the left and one on the right. So yeah, that's why you can use the same PCB for. So if you're doing a lefty, you do it this way. See that? And then it just chooses which one of these pins to connect. But then it also flips them because, yeah, because the controller's flipped around. I don't know. I designed this like 2 or 3 years ago. I've completely forgotten how it works. Only that it does. Ground. Okay, you know what? Less thinking, more drumming. That's the Home Depot advantage. Also, you can't just flip this thing around because the mounting holes are not square. They're a rectangle. I'm probably not flapping in the breeze as much as I would like, but it's probably... I better remove a little bit more, just make sure there's no ground short. So we solder blob these. That's our selector for the horizontal. Then this, so we inverse what was on the switch. So if switch had positive up, we make it negative up. Which is that. Then we just need to attach a small wire to one of the VCC references, and that should be good to go. Right as rain. I saw someone in the comments disparage my Dave Jones impression, so I'm going to do it even more. I'll solder in these adjustment potentiometers. Yeah, it's just so many unfinished projects. But the thing is, I don't, my job is not to randomly build stuff anymore. And I spend almost pretty full time programming pinball machines. Like after I stopped doing the show, I had lots of free time, and it was a nice break. So I was able to still do this kind of stuff. But yeah, my work is much less diverse now. I didn't get that scanner until, what was it? I think that was last summer. That was summer of 2023. Normally I mark the ground wire, but this one is a little different. Okay. But the flip has been done here, so the rest of it should work. Because when I was prototyping full time, like before I did the show, I was forced to, I had to finish stuff because that's how I made my money. And then when I did the show, I still had to finish stuff because that's how we made the show. But yeah, once it kind of becomes just a hobby, it's like, well, I don't have to finish this stuff. And like the motivation is lesser. But I find that disappointing for myself because I always prided myself on finishing all my projects. And I always do. It just seems like the scale has expanded. Like, what was that Vagabond? Like, oh, I've been working on this thing for 19 years. And it's true that I have. Like, this controller has been sitting right over there on this desk for, yeah, multiple years. Well, I think I pulled it out, like I mentioned last year when I did the scan. Yeah, look how that fits perfectly now. Where does Michael sleep? Oh, he sleeps on this bidet thing here at the end. See? He fits perfectly. Wait, I don't think that's a bidet. Yeah. So I use some hot glue just to hold it in place, and then I'll drill holes. But yeah, that was my big hang up, because when I was doing the the Xbox controllers, I went on Turbo Squid. This is probably like 2015, 2016. I went on Turbo Squid and I bought a model of the controller, and then I use that to do my Boolean subtractions to make this part fit. But I didn't have that for these Power A controllers, so I needed a scanner, a good quality scanner, and I had like one of those old handheld scent scanners, but those are better for like heads and torsos. They're not really good for small parts. But the Quality Ferret worked really well. I'll put a link to that video below. That was, yes, so really, you know, I mean, I should have done this a year ago, but put in 3 contact points of screws. Three, so it, you know, so that you know it's good. It's like the ShamWow, it's really good. Yeah, because the vertical is here, then power is there, and then horizontal is there, and then ground is there. Yeah, so that was a great line. Wow, I mean, yeah. This should fit like a glove. Right, so, okay, so you hold it like this, and this will go against your leg, and so up, down, left, right, down. Oh no, I've turned into Jessica Simpson. Because lately I've been putting the shafts on this side so you have more to grip. But I have had people say that they actually like it the old way where the shaft is on the opposite side. Although maybe I should print another shaft just to make a grip here too. I mean, this is technically a prototype. Just in time for the Switch to be obsolete. Oh, come on. You know Switch 2 is just going to be 1.5 switches duct taped together. Check it out. I've got the anti-cat knocking over your Switch custom printed stand. Guess I could put the link for that in the description below. It's on Thingiverse. Oh, and I have my side-loading VCR too. All right, let's test out this controller.
It's me, Mario. I'm gonna strike your channel.
All right, so we'll simulate this pretend this is against my leg. So that way. So yeah, pushing the controller forward against the stick, that's the same as up. Point it back is down, left, and right. Although I can see a problem in this game. How would you push forward and hit the A button? Probably want to put an A button on the back for Mario stuff. Yeah. What do the other buttons do? I forgot. Oh, that throws his hat. That's also jump? Okay. Oh, so the 4 buttons are actually just 2 buttons. Wow, a coin. Yeah, this is for saying the princess was in another castle. A? Oh, I forgot A's over here.
We're Nintendo. We don't pay for the voice actors. It's me, Bud. I'm gonna win.
Oh yeah, this controller has this mapping feature. So if I hold this button, the light should blink. Now I can say, okay, I want to map B to that button. Now that should jump. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, you know what I could do? I could probably move the other extra action button over here so you have 2 options, like add another button there. Oh, man. Ridiculous how long I spent not making this.
Yippee! Yippee! I'm gonna beat up a toad.
You know, having buttons on the back would probably be a good idea in general. Maybe I should do that for the Xbox. Can I eat? What's the point of these? Oh, it's been a couple years since I played this game. Well, there you have it.
I finally finished the single-handed Switch controller, and all it took was doing a Corrality Ferret 3D scanner review. Bud, what are you doing? Are you a cat? Do you have IV marks on your paw? I see your fur is growing back from your trip to the hospital. I know that your powers of retention are as wet as a warthog's backside, but thick as you are. Pay attention. My words are a matter of pride. It's clear from your vacant expressions that the music has stopped upstairs. But we're talking margin calls and recessions. Even you can't be caught unawares. Okay, there's a deep cut.